Welcome to Beauty and the Gi, the podcast about jiu-jitsu and so much more. I'm Jen Eads, a blue belt full of curiosity, questions, and chaos.
And I'm AJ Klingerman, a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, obsessed with Jiu-Jitsu community.
And we have a very special guest.
Hello, I'm Jennifer Risser. I'm a brown belt, and I am the ringleader of the chaos.
Yes.
Yes.
And why are you on the podcast today?
Well, I will be teaching at camp this year, Indy Base Camp.
Yay! I'm so excited. I'm so excited.
I am too.
It's going to be so fun. I know you've taught at like both our white belt camps and Costa Rica a couple times and the Mighty Models camp that we ran. And obviously you teach like 4 classes a week, typically at the gym, sometimes more if I can get you to teach my class.
Sometimes less if I can get Matt or John to teach one of my classes.
Exactly. It's a community here.
Or Kelly and Andrea.
But I'm really excited for you to be teaching at base camp and like getting to share this with a lot more people.
I'm excited. I'm nervous. I mean, teaching to that many people is just a different situation, different ballpark.
Yeah, it really is. And like when we go to other camps or anything, like we try to really vet people and make sure that they're the kind of person that can teach to a room of 250 women, because not everybody can. Like it is hard.
I have the vibes. I have the loud voice. We'll see if I have the rest.
Oh, I'm sure. I have no doubt.
Absolutely. And your session at Costa Rica was one of my absolute favorite sessions of the whole time. It was so fun.
That says a lot because you tore your labrum during that session.
True. But luckily it was towards the end. So I got to have some fun first.
You enjoyed the chaos first.
I did. And I mean, here's the thing. There's an extent, like I get that like I'm a black belt and you're a brown belt. And, you know, most of our time we've been in separate belts. We've spent only a little bit of blue belt together. But in a way, you've been a coach of mine for a very long time. You were together a little bit of purple belt too. Is that the thought?
I think we had a couple months of purple belt together.
You've helped me with my game so much. You've taught me so much jiu-jitsu. I'm just really excited for you to get to share it with others.
Thanks. It'll be fun. We're going to do a camp themed session.
Yeah.
This year's camp theme is A Rising Tide Raises All Ships. So we're going to be under the sea doing some octopus guard. Which I think will be really fun, but it's a guard that not necessarily a ton of people have played. So it'll be a time for all of us.
Yeah, you've been teaching at some at the gym, and then you taught it at Costa Rica. But every time someone hits an octopus guard sweep in the gym, we all cheer. Like everyone is like, "Oh,
I did it!"
It's so fun, and it really is. It's not something that many people play, so I'm excited about it. It is a little unprecedented to have a brown belt as one of our instructors. The only actual time that happened was the very first camp. Rachel was a brown belt and she was the highest ranked woman to teach then. Because, we've talked about it before, but like I basically called up all my friends and was like, hey, will you come help me run this camp? And I was marketed as a brown belt, but I ended up getting my black belt the day before camp. So I'm excited for you to be like the first brown belt since Rachel. You're our next Rachel.
I don't think that's true, but
you're right. You're much nicer.
I can be the good cop and she can be the bad cop.
Yes, that feels accurate.
Which is funny because normally I'm the bad cop and you're the good cop.
Yeah, so it's balance.
She's a Libra.
So I like balance. Yes. Jen, also a Libra, so she gets it.
Oh. Yeah.
So I actually do have a lot of questions for you. I mean, obviously, some of them are things that I know. I'm your wife, so that's helpful. But not things our audience knows necessarily. And my first question is just like, how did you get started in jiu-jitsu?
Well, AJ Klingerman made me.
Same. There's a theme.
Yeah, she's a pusher.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah, AJ's a pusher. I started out doing like boot camp type classes at the gym and working out with another woman that did jujitsu there. And you guys just kind of peer pressured me into it eventually.
I'm still that person. I am absolutely still that person.
I think it took you like a year and a half or something like that to get me actually like in a gi doing jujitsu.
You did my very first ever women's class and nobody was in a gi. But yeah, it was probably, a year and a half later that I actually got you in class.
What was your resistance to it?
I didn't want to.
Why?
I just, I didn't. So my history with jujitsu is like I did extreme grappling opens as like a table worker. So like I saw competitions and like sweaty guys shirtless and, like that didn't look like fun to me. Like that did not seem like a good time. And like the gym we were in at the time, like the vibes were not vibing, so it was not the kind of thing where I super wanted to be involved in that scene. The women's class is really what gave me a place to start training because it was it's a safer class. It was, not super bro-y, obviously. So I think it was like a mount escape class that like hooked me because I was like, oh, this actually is kind of fun. Because it's like AJ, I think, used kid gloves on me for a while, thinking I would like hate it, but it was actually just boring to me, I think. She can tell her side of that, but that's my perspective of what happens.
I didn't want to beat her up because I didn't want her to not do class, right? So, and I was still new as an instructor. So I was still like very, I don't want to throw you into the fire. I just wanted you to stick around. So, and then the one class I was like, oh gosh, I guess we're doing mount escapes. Like this is going to suck. I'm so sorry. And she was like, that was so fun. And I was like, crap. But like Jen, you talk about like you might not have done it had you really known what you were getting into, and Risser did know what it was, right? So that kind of like she was like, I'm not sure that's what I want to do. So sometimes ignorance can be helpful in it. Mm-hmm. Just like not really knowing how it's going to be and like just blindly trying it.
And I will say, after revisiting Mount this week, I'm like, oh, that might have broken me if that had come too early in my jujitsu.
Well, let's also remember I was fighting blue belt AJ, like probably pretty fresh blue belt AJ. So like AJ's mount is like living under, it's in hell. Yeah. Like you're in hell under AJ's mount these days. But like blue belt AJ was certainly like a little daintier, not as able to be heavy. I'm sure she was still also using a little bit of kid gloves with me. Like she was fighting me, but not like murdering through the ground. So it was a good balance, I think.
Yeah. I didn't really know how to murder through the ground yet. And I still had that mentality of like, I don't want to smash people. Like I remember the first few times I learned S-mount and I was like, I will never do this to another woman. This is awful. I will never do this to another woman. And then flash forward to like camp, 2 years ago? That's what I taught at camp. So it's like, no, actually, this is fantastic. You should do this. Funny how times change.
Yeah. Oh, not much has changed since Risser started jujitsu.
For real, go back and listen to the last episode. Yeah. How much has changed. Okay, so I'd also like to just ask, like, what are some of your highlights from your jiu-jitsu journey?
I feel like you should have given me this look back of time.
I know, but I thought about it. I actually did, but I was like, off the cuff is just so much better. Like, what comes to your mind immediately? We actually don't give anybody the questions ahead of time, so not that I couldn't cheat for you.
Yeah, you're not married.
True.
Okay, first highlight that came to mind, like, just immediately, I can't snap, but that was a snap, was our PANS 2020 trip.
Yes.
The lead into PANS 2020, it was the hardest we've ever worked to prepare for a tournament. We had the best game plans we've ever had. We worked out a ton. We trained a ton. And we went to PANS together and we won. We both won our divisions. So that was really cool.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite trips, tournaments, experiences. Like every bit of it was fantastic.
That's probably my favorite tournament I've ever done was PANS 2020.
Yeah. And we got to go to 2 water parks on that trip, and that was nice.
I don't know if that's a jiu-jitsu highlight, but that was really fun.
Here's the thing, though. It is kind of, right? When people talk about jiu-jitsu, sometimes you just get stuck in like the moves of it or the tournaments or anything like that. But like really the highlight of jiu-jitsu is all the stuff surrounding it. It's the community, it's the memories, it's, the things you get to do on the trip outside of just competing. Like we went with a bunch of our teammates to eat on that trip or to play putt-putt or, like we did all these things. And that's what makes it so much fun. Like that whole thing. Then you're right. That putt-putt was the next year, but she was like, no, that wasn't that trip.
I did not do as well at that PANS. I got myself a concussion and a bronze medal. I don't know. I lost. It sucks.
But you know what I mean? Like jiu-jitsu is about so much more, which is why our camp is about so much more. It's not just coming in and learning jiu-jitsu and leaving. We strongly suggest that people stay at the hotel with us because like that's part of it. Like seeing each other in the halls and hanging out at breakfast and around the fire at night.
Abby's trail mix.
That's
We were just talking about Abby's trail mix in women's class last night, actually.
But there's so much more to it than just the jiu-jitsu aspect. So
yeah, you're right. Most of the things we remember are like Rachel stealing the Twizzlers and eating all of them. That kind of thing.
Very true. Or you telling Rachel how much we raised when it was going to be a surprise.
You didn't tell me it was a surprise. She has Alzheimer's. She didn't remember any of it.
That's true. Okay, so talking about competing, do you enjoy competing?
Absolutely not. There's no part of competing that I enjoy.
Why do you do it?
My coach makes me. No, here's the thing. Competing, if you set out to compete with intention, I agree with what like kind of AJ says about it. You become the best version of yourself. The reason 2020 is like one of my favorite memories in terms of competition is we trained for months for that tournament. We got in the best shape we'd been in a long time in terms of like lifting and cardio. Shout out to Jess Sunier for doing our strength and conditioning plans for that trip. We cleaned up our diets. We trained, we drilled our game plans. We, fixed holes in our game plans. It was the most intentional I've ever been with prepping for a tournament. And it's the most confident I've ever felt going in. And for me, confidence is really important. I mean, probably for most people, I guess.
Yeah. But yeah, I agree. Like we were really well prepared. And like we want to take a big team to Worlds this year. And, we've kind of been talking about preparing for that, like preparing the team as a whole, because as a whole, we can all get better. Hence the rising tide that raises all ships. But, we can all get better together and push each other to really be prepared for that tournament.
Agreed. I was talking to them a little bit last night about how we're going to be training a little bit harder in the coming months, especially as you have surgery and we have some like different type of classes. We're going to, do some serious comp training type classes.
Yeah. So for our listeners, you've heard that I had the tear and I am scheduled for surgery for that. We're crossing everything we have that they'll actually make my surgery a couple weeks earlier than what it's scheduled for now. But yeah, I am having surgery on my shoulder and that's a good thing. I'm hoping it'll be better and I can actually use both arms when I'm rolling.
Or just like washing your hair or, living life.
Exactly. Like taking off my sports bra with ease. How nice that would be. Scratching my own back. Just the little things in life. When it's really flared, I can't even put on my own jiu-jitsu belt. Like I can't reach behind me to pass it. So yeah. So I'll be glad to be able to do all those things again. Jen, do you have any specific questions? I have a list. So
oh no, I'm here for your list.
I'm sure as a brown belt, you can picture yourself as a black belt someday. But when you started, did you think that this is where you would end up? Did you have any thought of that?
No way. I mean, I think at every belt I've felt like, is this the right choice? I'm not really sure about this belt for me. I'm like, I recognize that I'm a 2-stripe brown belt, but it does not feel feasible that I will be a black belt.
Even still,
it's like, I could be a brown belt for a while. If I could be a purple belt, that'd be cool.
It's the best color.
It really is.
Color. I really think I could give those purple belts a run for their money.
You've requested to be a blue belt from me sometimes, so
I think that'd be fun. I mean, when everybody's belts are on the ground and I like reach to pick up a belt, it's never the brown belt. You know what I mean? It's like I'm a purple or blue belt, right? Like that's where I'm at.
The funniest part about that is you're the only brown belt in the gym. So like, it's like, I don't know whose belt that is. That's not mine.
It's not my problem.
What advice would you give to you now, to yourself when you started? And is that the same advice you would give to new people coming in?
Ooh, that's a good question. That's a question I've asked before, and I don't have a great answer for it. Let me
I take notes from the best.
Thievery. It's tough because, the white belt me didn't specifically want to do jujitsu. White belt me wanted to hang out with AJ and Amy. I just wanted to be friends with you guys. So, I mean, most white belts, let's reverse engineer this a little bit. Most white belts, I tell, your job is just pick up techniques. Learn a couple moves from each position. Try to figure out how to chain things together. Don't put too much pressure on yourself. Don't expect too much from yourself. And also let your injuries heal. The biggest mistakes I've seen in jiu-jitsu in our gym and other gyms is just training every day. Don't let your injuries heal, that kind of thing. So I guess that's good advice for purple belt me who just kept getting concussions and not resting long enough.
Yeah. I'd like to reiterate that it's not the same gym that you're in getting concussions.
Yeah, but I mean, that's still a lesson that people have to learn. That's a very ingrained thing in people of the millennial generations and above, I would say, is, rub dirt on it, you're fine.
Yep.
Tape it up and move on, which is how you walked on a broken foot for 2.5 years. You kind of limp along, and it's like, that's not the right choice for your body.
Yeah.
Your jujitsu. But it feels bad in the moment. Like right now I've got a rib out and I just want to keep rolling. And that's not the choice.
Yeah. Learning to recover has been one of the hardest things for me, for sure.
Yeah. Especially as you age, figure out how to recover better as you age. That's probably what my white belt self should hear. I started jujitsu at 27 or something like that. Do better, recover better, stretch.
Actually do warm-ups.
Yeah. Do warm-ups. Ugh.
Who have been some of your favorite people to learn from?
Ooh, well, Rachel Casillas is obviously the default. Rachel is cool because she's the type of person that can teach you almost anything. She'll readily admit when she's not the best person in the room to tell you about a thing, but she also has good base knowledge on virtually everything.
Yeah.
This is weird to say to your face, but AJ Klingerman, right? AJ's fundamentals are insane. Her fundamental knowledge is incredible. All sorts of things, but between the two of us, your fundamentals are well above and beyond where my fundamentals are at. I was talking to AJ maybe just yesterday about, the thing that I'm most nervous about in teaching her classes while she's out for surgery is her fundamentals are so much more solid than mine are. So it's that'll be great for me to work on, all right, we're going to do an Americana from mount. But also, I just want to do something silly like octopus guard to truck.
I think that is a really great balance between us too. I'll teach a little bit of fancy stuff, but in general, you're much better for the fancy jujitsu.
Yeah, I follow sort of how jujitsu changes over time, and you're just very strong and this is what jujitsu is. This is the jujitsu that works and has worked and will continue to work for years.
Yeah,
which I appreciate. Michele Nicolini.
Yes. Yeah.
Excellent instructor. She's taught twice for our camp and she was fantastic. I feel rude because I can't think of other names in this moment, but those are the big three, I guess, for me. Should I name a man? That feels rude.
Wait, I didn't say any men.
His choice is Ray Casillas. His half guard has helped my half guard so much. I'm a half guard player, which I know is dumb as a super heavy, but that's where I'm at. And that's what he does. So I feel fine about it.
Yeah.
But Ray's half guard. Ray knows tons of things, don't get me wrong, but I have vibed a lot with his half guard instruction and I really appreciate it. Ray could teach you half guard every week for a year and not teach you all the half guard he knows.
He really did that too. Yeah, not us, I wish. But he ran a class at his gym that was a half guard class once a week and he did it for a year and didn't go through all of the stuff he had. Absolutely insane.
Yeah.
Are there any instructors that you really want to learn from?
Fionn Davies has been touring a little bit. I was actually looking at a Milwaukee seminar the other day, but it's 5.5 hours.
Could we make this happen?
I've really wanted to learn from her for several years, but she's been teaching more locally lately. And by locally, I mean in this country versus, where she lives.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have any specific jujitsu goals right now?
Right now, what I've really been working on, been working on a couple different things. So one is just like playing with octopus guard and kind of figuring out what exactly am I going to teach, because, there's all sorts of octopus guard stuff. But the way I like to teach and the way that we like people at our camp to teach is something that makes sense together. So, you do a thing and then maybe they react and you do the next thing, or, you do a thing and it leads to this place and that kind of thing. So I'm going to be teaching only octopus guard. So what that means for me is I have to figure out, okay, what's a thing that is easily digestible and you can hit pretty successfully, at least a few basic moves, and where do we build on from that? So that's what I've been playing with. I mean, most of my rounds with AJ are, all right, I'm going to get smashed from this octopus guard and then we're going to see where it goes.
Which has been so fun for me.
Yeah, it's really fun for you to get to smash me.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
You get a nice little karate chop barbed wire to the throat.
And I just go, bleh.
Yeah. Lately, I've been working on this sweep, and the reaction I've been getting from you lately is a back bend. So that's new. Like just posted on her head, full back bend. It's like just very wrestler style. It's like, don't you have a hurt neck? Stop doing that. But it's the right reaction, right? Like that's a good reaction. So I'm working on that. I'm also working on my stand-up. So like I said, in 2021, I got a concussion while competing, and I've had a couple concussions in that time. I think I've been pretty good at brown belt. I don't think I've had any concussions, but who could remember? So I'm working on sort of grip fighting, being more aggressive and intentional in my stand-up, keeping my head away from their head, and just working on like my foot sweeps and my stand-up and that kind of thing, trying to figure out what am I going to do at Worlds? What's my game plan at Worlds? So that's what I'm working on right now.
I love that. When you were talking about kind of breaking down the octopus guard and stuff, I was just thinking back, like I should have asked you when you're talking about your favorite instructors, like just in general, what do you think makes a good instructor? So like for people that are wanting to start teaching or are teaching, but are feeling, not great about their teaching or something like that, or if they have to cover a class or anything like that, like what do you think makes a...
Or their coach oversleeps.
That too, right? What do you think makes a good instructor?
Well, I don't know if my opinion on this topic matters too much, but I'm happy to give my 2 cents as always. I am a lawyer. I speak for a living. So why not?
Why not?
Yeah. I think a good instructor can look like a lot of different things, but I think that the things that those people have in common are making it accessible. So, whether you're teaching a position or just a submission, talking about saying words of, I'm cross gripping. It's not, well, the hand goes here and the hand goes here and this does that, saying the words. Sometimes people are looking down and taking notes. Sometimes people need to hear the actual words and not just the movement or this and that and there. My hand goes to the cross collar. So really being very specific in what they do. I think the thing that I see as a mistake most often, and I catch myself making this mistake too, is giving too many choices. So, when you're teaching in a room of like, purple, brown, and aboves, you can give a bunch of options and they're fine. But if you're teaching in a room like, our fundamentals class or, our base camp, a camp or a place that has a lot of white belts, and maybe some blue belts, giving too many options or teaching it differently each time is very, very difficult to follow. So it's like, I think those instructors tend to have so much knowledge, but they maybe haven't been intentional in planning how they're going to teach it, or they haven't thought ahead of time. So I think it's really important to know this is exactly how I want you to do it right now. And here's why. It's okay to give, different options, but for the white and blue belts specifically, it really confuses them if you do it differently each time. Also, if you do some broken down versions where you break it down and you talk them through it, and then you do it quickly and you do it differently because that's how you really do it in real life. And, those are easy mistakes to make. Like everybody makes those mistakes from time to time. But I think good instructors are able to consistently show exactly what they expect and what they want the drill to be. They're able to use words, and ideally they're able to maybe throw some conceptual ideas on top of that, like in a sweep, we're blocking the post toward the direction we're going. We're loading, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
That was a long answer.
That was great, though. That was great. What are some things, aside from giving too many options, what do you think are some like common mistakes so giving too many options, not saying enough words. Is there anything else you would add to that list of like common mistakes instructors make?
I think sometimes we see sort of imposter syndrome influencing things. So, when I see maybe lower belts or people newer to instruction teaching, they feel like, well, I shouldn't command the room, or we're going to make this really informal. Sometimes I even catch myself doing it where it's like, you just stay where you are and I'll just teach wherever I am. But it's like, at least in my head, I think it's ideal to control sort of the viewpoint, put them on a line, put them all on the same side of you so that you know which direction everybody has seen, right? So don't be afraid to command the room. Tell them exactly what you want them to drill. Sometimes you see people get out there and they say a bunch of things and they're like, okay, any questions? And it's like, okay, the question is, what are you having them do in this moment?
Yeah, what are we doing?
Yeah, you just taught a bunch of things or showed a bunch of things. All of that was great. But specifically tell them what you want them to do. I think that can be hard when you're a lower rank or you're newer to teaching because you're like, I don't know how to command, but just be bossy. Like I was born to be bossy, so maybe that comes too naturally to me. But yeah, so just commanding the room a little bit and frankly, making them drill more. AJ, you do a really good job of that. Everybody do 2 more and hit the line or something like that. Sometimes people do it 1 or 2 times and they're done. And it's like, you guys are going to keep doing this or we're going to spar. Like
yeah.
That's a threat.
Yeah. Me and you are going to spar, not just in general. No, I'm kidding. I also used to kind of hate when we had some instructors that would be like, you just do it. Like, you'd be like, I have a question. And like, you just do it. Like, just kind of like, of course, and not like breaking it down.
Yeah. Cause at Blue Belt, I can just magically do stuff.
Exactly.
It's amazing.
Exactly. I'm just like, arm, do this. My last question is, what's your favorite part about Roll Model Camp?
The camp itself, like the actual event?
Yeah, I think so. Unless you have other ideas.
Well, the first thing that popped in my head was simply the community, because camp is so much more than just the 3 to 4 days that it occurs over, right? We have people that we bond with from camp and like, Amy Dillon or Nicole DeFrancisco, we go to different camps together and we see them outside of camp and that kind of thing. So the community is definitely like my favorite thing, period. For the camp itself, there's just something so cool about being in a room with that many women doing jujitsu. Like I started training officially, I was in a gi in 2015. So I usually count from 2015. But women's class was lots of times you and me, like our women's camp was, I don't know, less than 50 that year. Right.
Yeah.
So, to see the growth of women's jujitsu and just to have that space for people, I think is really cool.
I do too. I love that, like, no matter who you are, doesn't matter your rank or your age or your weight or, like anything like that. There are other people in the room that look like you or, are the same rank as you or anything like that. Like it just is really cool that you can find your ideal training partner, basically.
Yeah. And just to go back to the community thing for a second, we're just such an accepting and inclusive community. At least that's our ideal, right? That's the vibe. And I do think that you can feel that at camp. I just think our camp has a different vibe than so many that I've been to, because it's just everybody belongs. If somebody sees somebody by themselves, they're checking in on them. They're inviting them to join them. It's just such a welcoming place, I think.
I think so too. I think at least that's really what we're trying, like that's what we witness and that's what we try to like push isn't the right word. Encourage, is just that.
I like push. I'm good with that. Yeah. Good with it.
But it's what we're really trying to encourage. Like last year we had little bandanas that said adopt me so that all of our introverts could like have a little thing on their belt or something that like I don't want to ask anyone to roll or to drill with me or anything like that. It's too hard for me to ask, but will somebody please ask me? Just little things like that. Like you said, checking in if they're alone, like, do you need a moment alone or would you like to come hang out with us? You know? Yeah, I'm so excited to have you as one of the instructors. I am so proud of your growth and everything. And like I said, where you're not actually one of my coaches, you've really been one of my coaches for a long time and you make my jiu-jitsu better all the time.
Thanks. You make my jiu-jitsu better all the time by smashing me all the time.
I do what I can.
And then we all benefit.
And Risser teaches classes. It's like, here's how you defeat AJ. Is she smashing you? This is what you do. I'm very happy to get to interview you.
Yeah, I've been on this podcast a bunch, but I've never been like the subject. I was kind of nervous.
Well, you did a fantastic job.
Good job. You're very intimidating.
Yes, definitely.
You guys are mean.
So mean.
Where can people find you?
I'm on Facebook at Jennifer Risser. I'm really bad at my DMs, so I'm very sorry for that ahead of time. I'm also on Instagram at jrizInTheHis. I am more findable there, but I'm also really bad at DMs, so sorry about that.
Risser's love language is sending her jiu-jitsu videos too. That's
Well, my love language is sending you jiu-jitsu videos, and sometimes people get mad because they're like, dude, I sent you 6 videos and you did not respond to any of them and you just sent me one. Like, yeah, that's easier for me. I want to talk about this thing.
Yeah. I actually had just logged into my Instagram right before this, and I was like, oh God, she sent me so many videos recently that I didn't see. I was like, I got to watch these. Good. Jen, where can they find us?
We are also on Instagram at Beauty and the Gi Podcast. I'm also hanging out there at Brassy Broad Jen.
You're like, who am I?
I don't know. It depends on the day.
I'm AJ Klingerman everywhere you go. Except TikTok, where I'm roll_model, so long as there's a TikTok that exists.
All right, friends, thanks for tuning in, and we will see you on the mat. Beauty and the Gi is a production of the Brassy Broadcasting Company
and brought to you by Roll Model Grappling.